Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Just Get to Work podcast. And I am Deb Kalidas. So welcome back if you have been able to take a listen and watch before. And if this is your first time, thanks for joining. Please hit that subscribe button as we dig into what it takes to just get to work. There are too many distractions. There are too many things that can hold us back. So I'm a firm believer, well, you just got to dive in. So let's just get to work. True to form today and just get to work is the topic. Use failure as your greatest advantage for success. This is a huge thing because I have failed so many times in so many ways. And as my husband and I get asked, well, how are you doing it? Just because we do have 4 businesses and, 2 kids and, all this stuff going on, we constantly have to reflect, understand what can we do better? What can we do differently? What did we learn from? And maybe it's not a flat on your face failure, but it's something that didn't go as well as you had hoped it to be. Maybe you wanted your event to have, 50 more people there. Maybe you wanted to raise X amount of more dollars in your campaign. Maybe you wanted that product launch or that new marketing campaign to hit a little bit differently. Those are things in daily life that we're constantly iterating, figuring out where we need to go to. Then you have the smack in your face. Oh my goodness, this is a mess. As I've mentioned before, we declared bankruptcy in 2014 after a catastrophic business loss. Our house was taken. We had cars repossessed. We were down to zero. I was on, social service benefits, medical assistance, all that kind of good stuff. So I speak from experience, because what you can do once you've figured out how to fail, but not just keep failing, but understand what you need to do so it doesn't happen again, things come back stronger. You're healthier, your business ideas, your aspirations, your hustle, everything pushes forward in such a momentous way. Talk to the biggest and strongest business people in this world, and you're going to find time after time there was a key failure moment that drove them forward. So let's dig into what I want you to learn today. Think of those moments when you have been around a little one learning how to walk, right? They're crawling, they're, using their hands to get up on the furniture, and all of a sudden they're brave enough to figure out how these 2 legs work and take their first step. And then they fall down, and then they try again, and then they fall down. And eventually it gets into a rhythm of confidence, as all the awkwardness of getting things together is amusing to watch. And what are all the adults and grownups doing all around this kid? Are they saying, oh man, this kid isn't going to make it in life, 12 months old, can't even put one foot in front of the other? No, we're wonderfully cheering them on, giving smiles, reassurance when they go boom. It's okay. It might hurt a little, but you get back up again. And that as an adult, we need to give ourselves a deep breath and understand that failure is going to be a part of the process. Now, I want to differentiate. There is failure that you dive in straight forward because you have made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. That is a different kind of accountability. I am talking about, if you've unfortunately been tempted, drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, moral dilemmas, abuse, neglecting your children. These are things that you need to go get professional help, professional attention, because you can do better. You deserve more, and the people around you deserve more. I'm speaking of those failures where, it's happened in business. It's happened where you've made a wrong choice and a wrong turn, and you then are able to immediately iterate and think, what do I need to do more of? So please, if you're in a situation today where you need help from others, go get that help from others. What I want to talk about is that monopoly feeling. We were sitting there. I know our son, who's now 21, he was begging to play Monopoly. He was like 7, 8 years old. He saw mom and dad play it. No, this looks like a grown-up game. I want to play it. And, my husband said, are you sure, Nico? Are you ready mentally to play Monopoly? Because at that point, he'd been Chutes and Ladders. He'd been Candyland. Operation was the most stressful that he had to play. And boy, did it hurt hard, because, my husband doesn't give any sympathy whatsoever in these type of situations, which is the way you learn, right? As, properties were passed up on and decisions were made. And of course, we were there guiding and encouraging along the way. But we also let him know, look, this is hard. When you lose on something that you're so excited to hand that money the first time, you've got to separate the emotions. And that's why board games are so important. in growing up in a household and with others, because you've got the smack talk going and you've got, the ego and the competitive nature. But as I watched my daughter beat her future husband when they were engaged in the game of Risk, that was awesome, because here he was, a Naval Academy graduate, heading in the Marine Corps. And this little communications major just beat him in Risk. It was great because they handled it wonderfully and beautifully, and they were able to move forward. But such is life, right? You don't know at any opportunity or any miss opportunity where you're going to have to go, wow, that didn't go out the way I planned. What do I need to do differently? My own personal moment where I can really trace back to that first failure and needing to figure out how to do something different was 8th grade. I'm heading into my 30th high school reunion in a few weeks, which I'm really excited about. I went to a really small school. There was only 32 kids in my graduating class. So we really got to know each other then. And thankfully, we've kept pretty good tabs on each other and knowing where people are at. But in 8th grade, it was the first opportunity to run for class president, right? They explain what the job is. I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds great. I know how to organize things and events, and we can fundraise, and we can possibly go on a trip, and this is what we can do, and this is what's going on. And, so I don't remember how many of us stood up when we got our little chance to do our speech and things. I don't even remember what I said, but I do remember I lost. And I lost to one of the kids I would say is one of the more popular kids. And so as we headed into 8th grade and I saw nothing happening, nothing going on, anything happening. And so we went then into the 9th grade year for class president, and I ran again. And once again, I'm up there and I'm like, hey, this is what we can do. This is how we can do it. Everything that's going on, this, that, and the other. And again, all excited, all involved. No, I didn't win again. I didn't win at all, not even close. And another more popular, I viewed at least more popular person, won at that moment with things. So then we get to 10th grade and I was like, all right, something's got to change here, because we've had 2 years of missed opportunities. Well, so much could have been getting done that I went up there and I essentially said, look, I've been up here every single time. I'm the only person that keeps getting every single time, and nothing is happening. I want us to go on trips. I want us to fundraise. I want us to do amazing things. So you can vote for someone else who's not going to do anything, or you can take a chance and vote on me. And you know what? That blatant honesty not only won that year, but then no one even ran against me in 11th and 12th grade. Because guess what? We were dipping chocolate-covered pretzels like crazy and selling them. We were going to Baltimore. We went to the Poconos. We went to Boston, all different things, some with our class, some with other adventures. We had fundraisers when the school play went on. We put ourselves into action, and go figure. I was an entrepreneur then, and I'm an entrepreneur now, and how we ran things. But that was exciting because it was a validation of recognizing what was going wrong and then what you needed to do to fix it. And that was, if someone had told me each time, oh, you'll do better next time. No, you're not going to do better next time unless you take control of the situation and do something differently. And for me, that was pointing out what hadn't been done and what I was capable of doing. And then the wonderful support and assurance from my classmates that we're able to move forward with. So what is your moment right now where you just feel like you keep getting up every day and doing the same thing, but it's not making a difference? That is the equivalent for, running for class president and just not getting elected year after year. What drastically do you need to look inward on to make sure that the exterior of what's going to happen can be communicated, can be put into plan, can be evaluated? Where did you mess up? What kind of questions are you asking yourself to make it worthwhile in different ways? I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and inspiring entrepreneurs, and also even some working professionals looking for their next position in life, as we're looking at their LinkedIn, how to improve themselves, how to position themselves. And over again, there is this misconception that you are not going to have to struggle through what you need to get through to learn what you need to learn to be where you need to be. Examples. I love founder stories. And so I have some books here. Guess what? These people failed a whole bunch and keep failing. Have you seen what lawsuits and things around? But yet they keep figuring out how to get where they need to get to in different ways. Then, Jack Dorsey, Twitter, now it's owned by Elon Musk and all over the place. Talk about crazy failure all over the place to figure out where, it ends up and what it's going to be, and starting with something that's not where it ended up to be. Snapchat. what a blessed disaster of craziness. How to turn down $1 billion is exactly what they did, but yet then they figured out how to scrape it together and put it in motion. And then Instagram, oh my gosh, talk about the negotiations and where they went. And then, seller's remorse and arguments. And then I was just reading Wall Street Journal this weekend. Same thing is happening with all this AI stuff, whether it's a ChatGPT or Claude or any of the others going on. They're all infighting about what's the best choice and what thing to do. Here's my point with this one. All of these individuals and people and things continue to have egos bigger than the product. They're trying to have egos bigger than the product and services at hand. If everyone took it down a notch and recognized their vulnerability and how to use that as a positive, I think these things would have gone a lot smoother and could be even more successful. There has to be an honesty in how we come to our own decisions and accountability with those that are around us. Heaven forbid someday someone writes a book about myself and my family and, oh my gosh, all this inroad fighting, because it isn't there. We have accountability, we keep our priorities straight, and we know that when we fail, it's not an opportunity to pounce on one another. The ego is separated. It is not the monopoly table. We're not playing risk. This is real lives. These are our lives. This is our income, and this is the responsibility we have to our team members. What we need to make sure that our ego is detached from the outcome so that together we can be celebratory of all who participated in the successes of what was going on. What does it mean to normalize failure for yourself and your organization? In our house, it was always with our kids that we said, look, it's not about that final grade. It's about the process of you learning and then figuring out what you need to do more of and differently next time. It was, engaging together to learn how they learn how they want to present the information out there, and then doing it hand in hand in a way that we were able to be the example for them to take on the success. Very much the same I try to do with my team, whether it's my graphic designer, my web designer, my assistant, my video editor, and things like that. It's not just, no, I don't like it, but no, this is where we need it to be. How are we going to get there so that next time they can be predictive in what my needs are? Same thing with your clients, your customers. At Valley Fruits and Veggies, we know, okay, people don't want weeds in the strawberry field. So guess what? We get to pick the weeds before people go in the strawberry field so that they can have success and gain their strawberries. This works at all levels in all different ways. But here's an extreme, right? You're the head of SpaceX. You're not, but let's pretend you are. How many rockets are you willing to die and to explode so that people don't die and explode? That is a huge failure rate. Even though I have gigantically 99% successes along the way, you have to then test it to the extremes, being willing to fail so that when you do succeed, you're confident in that success. What are you willing to put out there to the universe, just like this podcast, to see what that interaction back is going to be? I challenge you to do that today in some way, shape, or form. In your relationships, in your business, wherever you go, put together a failure intelligence system. Look for the failures, go, oh, yay, we found one, and then figure out what you need to do differently. Whether it's how you're talking to your spouse today, whether it's how you configured, well, who was in charge of dinner or who wasn't, and why is there no food in the house? That can happen more frequently than you expect. Or is it, wow, we really mucked up on that integration with our client, with our software and services? How do we need to go back and give them extra value, take accountability for where we're at, and make sure that never happens again with anyone? These are real life examples. How are you going to have within your accountability and your intelligence system just safeguards? So for us as a marketing communication firm, we have Slack, we have Asana, we have our video calls, we have our client summaries, we have our goals and objectives, we have our planning meetings, we have our follow-up meetings, we have our evaluation meetings, we have the proofreading of things, and things still slip through the cracks. But every slip through, we look to see, okay, what else do we need to do to buffer ourselves? And that's helping one another in any of the way we can, and support, and not looking to point the finger, but rather, okay, who missed it so that we can all do better together. Something very personal to me within failure is how fast you can get back on the bike. When learning the bike, it's, oh, nope, you fell down, get back up. Fell down, get back up. All right. Do you need to make sure you've got the helmet on and maybe you're on the grass and not on the asphalt yet before you're ready to be there? You've got the training wheels on before, you're free and clear on the bike? Absolutely. But an example of this happened, our daughter, when she got her license, it was unfortunately wretchedly delayed because of COVID. So there was, just that anxiety and things happening. And so she's on the road. There's an intersection near our house that it's being redone finally in the next year by the state. But it's hard when you're making that left-hand turn through the intersection. There's no turn signal. There's no turn lane. So you're having to make a lot of judgments. Well, I got the call that no parent wants to get that your child has been in a car accident. And essentially, she was making that left-hand turn. She thought she had more time. The truck coming the other way sped up instead of slowing down. It was, in the end, a no-fault accident, but at the time, it doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that everybody's okay. Her car was totaled. And immediately her father and I, we had the option. We could have been the overprotective, oh my gosh, let us drive you, let's figure this out. No, we had her on the road the next day. We got more defensive driving lessons, and we made sure that there was no time for fear within that failure to affect her and impact her in a way that would prevent her from going out and doing something that is of monumental importance, is just driving. Another example we have in our life is our son, Nico. He is wonderfully and beautifully dyslexic. He was diagnosed very late in high school. He never had trouble learning to read. Rather, it was the processing. So whether it was the visual or the audio processing, things that we had seen little traits and bits and pieces, but weren't able to quite put our hand on. So during this journey, though, before knowing that he was dyslexic, of course, the PSATs and SATs begin. So junior year of high school, or sophomore year of high school, took the PSATs. Of course, you can get 800 on, language and 800 on math, total combined max score of 1600. He scored an 880. And we, there was no harm, no foul for us. Goodness gracious. We said, Nico, good job for taking the test. You now understand the test. As his diagnosis with dyslexia was going on, we got him accommodations, longer time. We hooked him up with a tutor. We did everything that we can to say, all right, let's go back out there. Now that you have strategy and more time, what's going to happen? So he went in, came out, was like, whew, that was a doozy, but all right, at least I was familiar with it. Score came back 880. We're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Like, because scholarships are based upon this, depending upon where he wants to apply to go to college, or what's his decision, where does he want to go? So invested in some more tutoring and all of this sort of stuff. And we said, all right, Nico, this is what we're doing. We're behind you 100%. Third time, comes back. The score is 880, people. We went, woohoo, we're having an 880 party. This is obviously not supposed to go anywhere. This is not a measure of your intelligence or talent or anything. This is where you're at, and this is where we're embraced to be. And so God bless Messiah University, where he's at, which is a fantastic institution, by the way. They had, you do not have to submit your SAT scores. And instead, he did a fantastic essay, wowed them in his interview and where he shines the most. And, they say Walt Disney, Einstein, Anne Rice, all dyslexic, Richard Branson, everything like that. So they think big, but when you try to define them to a page of paper, it doesn't work. So sometimes your so-called failure isn't at all. It just means that you need to be taking a different direction. And that's what I want to leave you with, my friends, today, is root yourself in purpose. Don't root yourself in the definition of what someone else is going to say is failure or not. Because let me tell you, when I had my, SNAP EBT card, bright yellow at the grocery store for that month during bankruptcy, where, also the medical assistant card and all this kind of stuff, you feel pretty crappy. You know what's happened. You know that something has to change. And sometimes change can happen quickly, and other times it's going to need to take its full course. But you, as long as you're behind it with an attitude of success and that you're going to do it again, you're going to look how to do it differently, and you're going to go after bringing people in who can support and uplift you, and with faith and purpose, amazing things are going to happen. So take ownership, act quickly, be with purpose, have a failure intelligence system, and great things are going to happen. So, hey, reach out to me, Deb Kalidas, Just Get to Work podcast. I'd love to learn about your failures, what it took to do something different, how that failure led to immense success, because I know if I hadn't failed, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And that's the blessing of today. Take care, my friends.